We are the second week into a series called From Finances to Romances. And we're looking at the story of Joseph, and we're going to spend 3 weeks looking at the story of Joseph, and then the last week we're going to talk about something different in this series. And so I wanted to let everyone know that this series is PG-13, okay? So just so you're warned, pastoral guidance suggested, okay? And so that the reason why is because we're going to talk about sex. Okay? And you know what? Here's the thing. The world talks about it all the time. Do they not? The Bible talks about it, but the church doesn't seem to talk about it. And now we have a mess out there, and the church needs to be a light. And so we're going to talk about that. And so a quick recap of where we're at in the story of Joseph. It starts in Genesis chapter 37, and his life, it ends in Genesis chapter 50. And this is basically a quick recap of where we are now, picking up in the story. Joseph is one of 12 brothers, okay? And they hate him. They hate him. So they sell him into slavery, and they sell him to slave traders who are on their way to Egypt, okay? And so he ends up working as a slave for a very powerful military person in Egypt. And this person's wife, Potiphar is his name, his wife keeps making advances at him and is pressuring him to have sex with her. And he keeps refusing, and he keeps his distance from her. And guess what? One day she grabs his clothes so tightly that he races out of the house naked in order to escape. And she ends up yelling rape, and he ends up going to jail for a crime he did not commit. And that's kind of where we left off from last week. Remember all that? Okay, so here we are. If you have your Bibles, Genesis chapter 40, and you can look, the very first thing it says this, sometime later. Okay? It's easy to read Bible stories and forget that this was happening to real people in real time. Sometimes you gloss over those things when you're just reading. Oh, I just got to get through. I got to read this chapter. Got to read through the Bible. But don't forget that. How would you feel sometime later, right? Sometime in jail for something you didn't do later. So verse 2 and 3, two of the king's servants are thrown into jail. One's like a cupbearer and the other's like a baker, okay? So they're both, close to the king, but they somehow anger him, and he throws them in jail in verse 2 and 3. And then it says this in verse 4, after they had been in custody for some time. So Joseph's already been in jail. Now here these guys are in jail for some time. And so verse 6 through 8, it says that these guys have very strong, vivid dreams, and it leaves them shaken. And the NIV says that these men were sad and dejected. And so if you don't remember from last week, Joseph is kind of elevated in the prison. He's still a prisoner, but he kind of makes the rounds and does things for the warden. And so he must come across where they are, and he's like, what's going on? What's up? And they tell him, we had these really, weird dreams, and we don't know what they mean, but they were so strong. And so he says this to them, don't interpretations belong to God? Tell me your dreams. Okay? So they each tell them their dream, and he correctly tells them what their dreams mean. And it's important to point out here is that Joseph tells the truth when it didn't even matter. He's stuck in an Egyptian jail. He could have listened to both their dreams and said, oh, okay, that's nice, and walked away, knowing what it meant, and it wouldn't have mattered. And Aristotle said this, the person who loves truth for the sake of truth, when nothing is at stake, will still be more truthful when someday everything's at stake. See, Joseph does the right thing and always, tells people the truth, whatever comes. He just is a truthful person, no matter what. He was truthful in the situation with Potiphar, and now here he is again, and he's telling these guys the truth. And there's nothing in it for Joseph to tell these guys what their dreams are, right? They were fellow prisoners. like him. It wasn't like the warden had the dream and he was trying to curry favor with the warden. Joseph does what's right, even to people who can benefit him nothing financially to benefit from him telling them their dreams. So remember that at your work. You know, Joseph was faithful when it didn't seem to matter, and God trusted him when it mattered a lot. Okay? If you're faithful in the little things, God will trust you in the big things. So in the area of romances, I want to look at this story through that lens and say this. For some people, if you're not dating right now, or you're single, or you're not involved in ministry, and you know, you might say, well, it doesn't really matter what I do. It doesn't matter whether I do good or bad. It doesn't seem to matter. So what's it going to hurt if I secretly watch porn? You know? And so it's not really going to bother anybody. And you might feel like that. You might feel like whether you do good or bad, you just show up to church and you take off when church lets out and it's no big deal. And here's a question that might seem odd to young people, but maybe you've never been asked this question, but are you being faithful to your future romance? To your future bride or your future husband? Are you being faithful to them right now? So pornography isn't a small matter. In fact, Jesus said not to do it in Matthew chapter 5, verse 28. You can look at that, and there's no way around it. Study after study that are secular and scientific and have nothing to do with the scriptures. Study after study shows that porn is ruinous to relationships. If you're married, it's not a good way to enhance your romance. And that's not the answer. And if you're single, as tempting as it is, it's a trap. It's a trap. That's all sin really is a trap. You know, think about an animal trap right now. If there were an animal trap right there, animal traps are baited with things that animals desire. You don't bait a trap with garbage, right? Unless the animal wants that, okay? It's a rat trap. But you bait the trap with something that the animal finds irresistible. And I'm not telling you that pornography isn't desirable. I'm not going to lie to you ever, but I am going to tell you that it's a trap. It's a trap. And that brings me to a book here that I've read. This book is called Wired for Intimacy, and it's by William Struthers. And the guy is a neuroscientist. He has a PhD, and so he talks about that situation from a Christian perspective because he's a Christian scientist. Actually, let me take that back. He's a scientist who's a Christian. He's not a Christian scientist. Okay, so he is a scientist who's a Christian, and so if you know anybody who struggles with that or is dealing with someone who's struggling with that, this is an excellent book. And at this point, let me show you just a little clip from him talking, and you can kind of see an idea of what I'm talking about.
That sexual stimuli in our environment actually will desensitize us so that we need something more and more severe. And we get to a place where even the normal stuff doesn't work anymore. The guys who continually look at porn over and over again, when they get with a real naked woman, she's not sufficient to arouse him. So he needs to watch porn while he's with this woman in order to get sufficiently aroused. So, goodness, to think that you can view pornography and it not have any lasting consequences is just neurologically naive. It just doesn't happen.
I like that term, neurologically naive. Notice in that little clip, he never mentioned one scripture, did he? He's talking from a point of science, how it will ruin you. And at this point in my message from finances to romances in the story of Joseph, you might be saying, hey, I thought we were talking about Joseph. What happened? Listen, Joseph was faithful in the most secret times of his life, in a prison where it didn't matter. And so you have to be faithful. And if you feel trapped in this subject and you need to tell someone and you feel like you have no one you can tell, let me first yell at you for a second. If you feel like you have no one to tell under anything, that tells you how engaged you are in this body of believers. If you have I don't know who to tell. You need to get engaged with a body of believers. That's why Jesus invented this thing called the church, So if you don't have anyone to tell, that's a problem for you, not people around you. You have to get engaged. And so if you do have a problem, you need to tell someone. And so you have to be faithful to God when you think it doesn't matter. So single people, you know, a romanceless marriage, you think it doesn't matter? It does. So back to the story here, verse 9 through 22, Joseph interprets these dreams. And one guy was going to be restored to his position in the palace, and the other guy gets beheaded. So the one that's going to get restored to his position in the palace, Joseph realizes, oh, this is a chance. You know, I'm sure they didn't have appeals in Egyptian jails back then, right? Like, I'm working on an appeal, right? This was his only chance that he knew, right? Nobody cares about Joseph. So he tells the cupbearer, he tells him this. He says, but when all goes well with you, remember me and show me kindness. Mention me to the Pharaoh and get me out of prison. I was forcibly carried off from the land of the Hebrews, and even here I've done nothing to deserve being put in a dungeon. But what happens? Verse 23, the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph. He forgot him. He forgot him. And so we jump to the next chapter here. If you have your Bible, jump to the next chapter, chapter 41. And verse 1, there's 3 underlined words that we'll all say together. It says this, when 2 full years had passed, Pharaoh had a dream. 2 full years of being forgotten. 2 years of that guy next to the Pharaoh, this cupbearer, forgetting. I feel like I was supposed to tell him something. What was it? What was it? It was walk like an Egyptian. That's it. No, that's stupid. We all walk like Egyptians. That's stupid. What was it? For 2 years, he was supposed to tell the Pharaoh something, and he forgot. Well, let me tell you something, church. Joseph knows what it's like to be forgotten. How many of you are forgotten at work all the time, right? You show up for work one day, and everybody's got these shirts, right? Like, oh, when did you guys get them? You didn't hear? You didn't order them? The form was here, you know? No. Or you show up, and there's a donut box. Hey, you guys got donuts. You open it up. There's nothing in there, right? Okay, thanks for telling me. We get forgotten, right? Those are minor things, but sometimes they're serious. How many of you, know people who have thankless adult kids and they forget how much money you've given to them? And they forget how to be thankful about it, right? So verses 2 through 7, Pharaoh has a dream here in chapter 41, okay? So this is a description of Pharaoh's dream. And so Pharaoh tells everyone, or 2 through 7 is the dream. Verse 8, he does what he knows best. This is a pagan land. So he's looking for astrologers and magicians to tell him what my dream means. And none of them can come up with it. So he has this very vivid dream. Nobody can tell him what it means. And so verse 9 through 13, the cupbearer finally remembers, okay, after 2 years. Oh, that's right. Okay, so this is 2 years later. So Pharaoh calls for Joseph from prison. And if you read there in verses 9 through 13, Joseph has to shave, bathe, and change all of his clothes. So what does that tell you about Joseph's working conditions? Not too good, right? I know people who throw around words like dungeon. This place is a dungeon. So many bulbs that got to get changed in here. Is it really a dungeon? Joseph worked in a dungeon, okay? So, and we know from last week, because I really hammered this point last week, and I'm going to hammer it again this week, resentment destroys dreams. But you just don't seem to find resentment in the story of Joseph. It's not there. And I believe that's why he's so successful. And I think that he's faithful when no one is looking or it doesn't matter. And so you need to be faithful when no one is looking or it feels like it doesn't matter. And he doesn't let resentment destroy his dreams. He has lots of setbacks, but those don't destroy his dreams. Resentment would destroy his dreams. Think about it. His brother sold him into slavery. Potiphar threw him into jail because his wife said he tried to rape her. And now the cupbearer forgets him. Resentment is going to destroy dreams. I don't know if you remember this because this is a number of years ago, but heavyweight champ Mike Tyson, he went to jail for rape. And he contends that he was innocent. And so when he got out of jail, they were interviewing him. And I remember him saying this in the interview, and it was very shocking. And they asked him about the situation and this woman that accused him. And he said, I wished I did rape her. Yeah, he already went to jail. He wished he did. Can you just feel the anger and resentment in this guy? Joseph doesn't have that. Think about this. Don't gloss over this the next time you read this story. Put yourself in Joseph's spot. Every day that he opened his eyes in jail and saw bars and smelled this dungeon, every day that he woke up in jail was a reminder of that potentially amazing sexual encounter that he never had. He refused it. And if he did have it, he might not be in jail right now. He could still be carrying on this illicit romance with Potiphar's beautiful wife. So whatever you're facing today, whether it's financial situations or romantic temptations, remember this: Joseph was not superhuman. There are no miracles recorded from Genesis chapter 37 to 50, which encompass his entire life. The closest thing you could say is that God gave him the ability to understand dreams. That's it. There's no miracles. You know why? Because Joseph is not superhuman. He's human, just like you. And so he didn't let resentment cause him to make bad decisions. And so now we're at verse 16 in chapter 41 here. And he's before the Pharaoh. So he's cleaned up, shaved, got some new clothes on, and he's ready to be presented to the Pharaoh. And the Pharaoh said, you can interpret dreams? You can interpret dreams? And here's what he says in verse 16. I cannot do it. I can't do it. But God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires. Now in chapter 40, verse 8, and chapter 41, verse 16, both times Joseph knows who is responsible for his talents and his gifts and his success. And he attributes them both times to God. Deuteronomy 8:18, it is God who gives you the power to earn a living, to get wealth, to make money. Don't forget that. See, the minute you change your perspective from everything you have, all of your skills, giftings, talents, and abilities, everything you have is a gift from God. Once you change your perspective from everything you have is your gift to humanity, right? You go from being humble and grateful and joyful to being resentful and a jerk. Nobody wants to hang out with that guy. See, ungrateful, resentful people, they sound like this because I'm saying right now, I'm making a statement here. I'm saying everything you have is a gift from God. And some people, resentful people or ungrateful people, they'll say, no, I got where I am because I worked hard. Other people didn't. And let me just give you a music example because I play music as a musician. Hopefully this will hammer home what I'm trying to say to you. I worked in a music store for 4 years, and I've seen people of varying talents, right? And people will say, no, I busted my you-know-what, and I worked hard, and that's why I'm as good as I am, right? Well, I will tell you this. I physically saw people over 4 years. They practiced immensely, more than people I knew, and they still stunk because God didn't give them the talent. And these people who practiced all the time because it came to them, they don't realize that God gave them that talent. Everything you have, God gave you. Yeah. Amen? So be grateful. So you need to change your perspective from being ungrateful and resentful to being humble and joyful for what you have. You know, if somebody came up to me and said, hey man, you got a nice voice, two things I would say. One, you thank them and you acknowledge that. Don't pretend you don't have a talent if God gave you a talent. How does God feel about that? Oh, I don't have that, right? And number two, you thank God, okay? So if somebody came up to me and they say, hey, you got a nice voice, I thank them and I thank God. That's what I'm going to do when somebody comes up and tells me that someday. So that's what you need to do. So verse 17 through 27, Pharaoh tells Joseph his dream. Okay? So Pharaoh tells Joseph his dream, and verse 28 through 32, Joseph explains the dream to Pharaoh. And it clicked. Pharaoh heard this explanation, and immediately it resonated with him, and he said, that's it. That's it. So we're going to read chapter 41, verse 33, and then 39, 40, and 41. And it says this. Joseph is now telling Pharaoh what he's got to do. He's saying this. And now let Pharaoh look for a discerning and wise man and put him in charge of the land of Egypt. So he said, here's your dream. He not only told him the dream, he said, here's what you need to do. Okay? So then it says this. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, since God has made all this known to you, there is no one so discerning and wise as you. You shall be in charge of my palace, and all my people are to submit to your orders. Only with respect to the throne will I be greater than you. So Pharaoh said to Joseph, I hereby put you in charge of the whole land of Egypt. What an amazing turn of events here, right? His life literally changes in an instant, right? But this instantaneous change came from years of being faithful when it didn't matter. Over and over through all these setbacks. And so we look at people who are faithful or successful financially, or they seem to have everything going on romantically in their marriage that you would desire for yours. And we only see the success in those people. And so let me warn you right now, when you only see the success and not setbacks, you have great potential to resent their success. You understand that? So everybody sees this moment in Joseph's life, but they forget about all these things, right, that he had to go through to get here, right? Everybody thinks that Joseph's story is kind of like a rags to riches story, right? It's like Annie, right? Or Pretty Woman. His story is not like that. In fact, the only pretty woman in this story caused him a lot of trouble. So, verse 45, if you have your Bibles, Joseph gets married. And he gets married to an Egyptian, and he's stuck in Egypt. And so verse 50, he has two sons, and he names them Ephraim and Manasseh. And Manasseh, the name, it's kind of like a play on words, but the name in Hebrew kind of sounds like the word for forget. And he says that he named his kid this name because of this. Because God has made me forget all my trouble and all my father's household. Now, before you gloss over that, that is bittersweet. Because look at the first line there, forget all my trouble. Okay, cool. But what's the next line say? He forgot his family. The name Manasseh is bittersweet. That's not rags to riches. And so this all started when he was 17. We read that in the last message. He was 17 years old when they sold him into slavery. And so if we have your Bible out right now, we're going to do a Bible study. Look at verse 46, and I want someone to shout out, how old is Joseph now? 30 years old. Woo, front row. What's your name, young lady? Good job, Michelle. That was not scripted. Make me proud, babe. That was awesome. He's 30. He's 30. And so he's 13 years away from his little brother Benjamin and his dad that loved him so much. All of that's gone. And so he named his son Ephraim, which means twice blessed. And there's two underlined words here. And it says this, this is why he named him Ephraim, because God has made me fruitful in the land of... That's not a rags to riches story, right? It's not. This is a story of someone coming to terms with their situation, accepting it, and then choosing, hear me now, choosing to be faithful in the situation that they've been handed, that they didn't really do a lot to get handed this situation. He was thrown in a pit, sold into slavery, falsely accused, locked up in jail, forgotten and rotting in jail. And now he's serving in a foreign land. And everyone knows there's no place like home. And he's not home. In fact, he never returns home, if you read the story, except for a brief moment, for a funeral. That's it. That's it. Now, thank God that not every person is destined to take this extreme path of hardship that Joseph took. Can I get an amen? Amen. Right? That is some serious hardships. But God expects you to have the same mindset of Joseph in whatever path you are walking on. Amen? You have to be faithful and diligent no matter what. So here is Joseph. In verse 43, it says he's basically plucked from prison and now he's parading around the palace in the chariot of the Pharaoh. Okay? So he's plucked from prison and now he's riding in the king's chariot. Now, I don't know about you, but we all want to ride in the king's ride, but we don't want to do the things that Joseph had to do to get there, right? It's tough. Think about the guys at the prison that Joseph came out of. Okay? Let's just go back to when he first got appointed. So the guys in the prison are like, hey, where's that guy that Pharaoh called up? Did he get him? No, he's second in command in Egypt. What? Think about the slaves that are still at Potiphar's house. When they catch wind of who's riding around in this chariot and is second in command, whoa, time out. Are you talking about that dude that tried to rape Potiphar's wife? He's second in command? Listen, I'm going to tell you, I tell you the truth. I tell you what God's word says, but I also help you out and tell you the ways of the world. Amen. Here's the way of the world. If you work hard and you stay faithful and true, okay, and you become successful, people will resent you. They will. They love to see people like that fall. They don't see all the things you had to do to get to that point, all the sacrifices you made, all the hardships you pushed through. And so they just see that and they might resent you. That's the way of the world, and that's okay. Okay? I'm not saying it's right. It's just it is what it is. So I'm not prepared to tell you today that Michelle and I have some kind of amazing marriage that everyone should follow, right? But I am going to tell you that we work through every setback. We don't set them aside or pretend they're not there so that they blow up later, right? And we don't walk away from tough situations, do we? No. Amen. So listen, preaching about this is hard, okay? There's a giant mirror on me, okay? I'm looking at my life. But that's a fact. We don't have I'm never going to do a marriage seminar, right? That's just not us, okay? We'll bring someone in, yeah. Okay, you see those people that smile from ear to ear and like, what are they so happy about, right? Okay, I will tell you this, and I asked her if I could share this story because I want you to know that we're human, just like Joseph. Here's the thing. My wife and I were on vacation, and we have 5 kids, and so we're driving down the road, and it's a few hours away where we had to go. And they're all in the back. There's a DVD playing. There's kids with earphones in. A couple kids are sleeping, right? So they're not really paying attention. And we had a discussion that devolved into an argument, right? And so as kids were waking up, what's going on, you know? We decided, you know what? Let's just pull off and get gas, okay? So I got out, and I'm pumping gas, and she got out and came around to help me pump gas, right? So we're out there talking, okay? So now the kids are inside, and so we talked and talked and talked. And so at the gas station, I don't know if you know this, but it's probably like a safety thing, but there is a little curb around every gas pump, you know? So I'm pretty lazy, so this talk was getting long, so I went like this. So I was sitting like this at the gas pump, right? And the pump was done, and we were talking it out. We did not want to go one step further on this vacation and ruin it for our kids because we couldn't get along, okay? So we're sitting there, and I'm sitting there at this pump, and the gas station attendants come out. They come out, sorry about that. They come out and they say, "Do you need us to call a tow truck?" And that's no lie, okay? So we're like, no, we're okay. We're just finishing up, you know? So we patched things up, and we had a great vacation because we just set that, we pushed through, and a lot of people don't do that. They don't know, you know, they look at marriages where they see couples who are happy together. And I can just tell you this, marriage is the art of learning to disagree with somebody and not killing them. Okay? Or not threatening divorce, right? Or making ridiculous ultimatums. If you don't this, I want that, right? We don't do that. You have to work through those problems, every setback that comes your way, not by walking out, and not by giving in to temptation, or not by beating each other up or putting each other down, or closing yourself off, or turning your back on somebody. That's not how you're going to get through. And I know, like, just like if you saw someone speaking in a marriage seminar where they're so happy and chipper, right? I know what some people think. Well, that's easy for you to say. You know, you're up there smiling from ear to ear, bad-mouthing us. You picked a good one, right? You married the right person. And you know what? I'm going to tell you this. Guess what? I didn't marry the right person because she didn't marry the right person. I'm wrong. I'm wrong a lot. I'm wrong all the time. I got an amen there on the front row. I'm wrong a lot. And guess what? The Bible says in Romans 3:23, here's God's standard. All have fallen short of God's glorious standard. You know what that means? All of you married the wrong person too. Get over it. Get over it. Stop having resentments, and you got to move on, move past those things. Let's do what Joseph did, right? Amen. So, one last thing here before we go to the next verse. Resenting the romance in other people's relationships won't do one bit of good for your romance. It won't. When you see, why can't we be like this person or that person? It's not going to do you one bit of good to look at them and resent your spouse. So verse 44, I'm just jumping back a little bit so you can understand just the magnitude of what has happened in Joseph's life. He said this, Pharaoh said this, "I am Pharaoh, but without your word, no one will lift a hand or a foot in all of Egypt." Okay, he's now second in command to in one of the most powerful countries in the world at the time, right? So guess who's under Joseph's command now? Potiphar. Are the wheels and the gears of revenge spinning in your mind yet? Right? Go like this. Put your Bibles down. Do this. Shh, listen. Do that. Everybody do this. You hear that? That's the gears of revenge. They're turning. Guess who else? Keep going. Keep doing this. Listen. Guess who else is under his command now? Potiphar's wife. Guess who else? The Egyptian jailer. Guess who else? The cupbearer. He forgot him. Okay, you can stop rubbing your hands. That's the sound. Does it feel warm yet? Okay. So, I'm not saying that Joseph would ever say this, but I can say this. If this were me, if I'm being honest, you know, so he tells the Pharaoh his dream. Pharaoh says, "I'm putting you in charge. Whatever you want." Do you think it's too hard for Joseph to go, "Hey, Pharaoh, before I get started on this huge plan," right? There was going to be 7 years of famine, or 7 years of good, and 7 years of bad, okay? I don't know if I mentioned that, but that's part of the story. So he interpreted Pharaoh's dream. There was going to be 7 years of bountiful crops and then 7 really bad years. And so Joseph was in charge to make sure that they sailed through that famine and didn't die, okay? So he had a very serious job to take care of. But how hard would it be to say, hey, Pharaoh, I need a garrison of like 50 of your really most bloodthirsty soldiers. I mean the ones that you lock up when you're not fighting, like you just lock them up. You know what I mean? If they're not in war, they're in jail, right? I need 50 of your most bloodthirsty mercenaries because I got to go back home. I need like a week. I got to take care of some business with my brothers. I would never impugn Joseph. Joseph is a great guy, but I would think that. I'm pretty human. If Hollywood wrote this story, this is where the storyline most assuredly would go. This is where the Bible goes, but this is where Hollywood go, right? How many of you have seen or read Shawshank Redemption, right? Oh, yeah. We have such a warped concept of what redemption means. That's not redemption, it's Shawshank revenge. Andy Dufresne gets back at that nasty prison warden, does he not? It's time for Joseph to make a Hollywood ending. A Mel Gibson, Clint Eastwood, Charles Bronson, Chuck Norris ending, right? A Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee, The Rock, Arnold Schwarzenegger ending. A Sylvester Stallone, Robert De Niro, Samuel L. Jackson, Al Pacino ending. I could keep going. I didn't mention Bruce Willis. That's how Hollywood works because Hollywood is just our human failures on screen. I think I made my point, did I not? Okay. In Hollywood, as in life, we avenge our resentments. When you're wronged financially or romantically, right? Rambo's going to get revenge, isn't he? Out here, I'm the law. Joseph knows that famine is coming. He knows that famine is coming. That was Pharaoh's dream. 7 years of good times and 7 years of bad. He doesn't have time to be distracted with avenging resentments. So if you have a dream to be happily married, or if you have financial dreams, and the people that you love the most have set you back the most, those setbacks cannot destroy your dreams. I mentioned that last week. Only resentment can. And so Joseph was faithful in little things. He was faithful when it didn't matter. He's faithful when no one was looking. He's faithful when nobody cared. And he was faithful in rotten situations. How many of you need to be a little bit more like Joseph this morning? Amen? And now he's second to none but Pharaoh. And so maybe some of his buddies at prison that heard all the stories he told him while he was there, maybe they thought things like this: oh man, he could be back, fooling around with Potiphar's wife. What an idiot. He could be enjoying all the things that an illicit romance brings, right? He'd still be trapped in slavery, and he'd be not under one slave, but now two. He'd be under Potiphar's wife. Don't make her mad, right? How long is this romance going to last? Till the next person comes along? See, those type of relationships always have a way of coming to light, do they not? And I wrote this before this weekend, but it says this: no matter how powerful and rich you are, those type of romances always come to light. And just this weekend, another person in the ongoing #MeToo saga has been exposed, because those things always come to light. So as I close right now, we're going to leave Joseph where he's at. I think we left him better this week than we did last week, right? We left him in jail last week. So I'm going to close right now, and I'm going to give an opportunity for you to respond. And here's the thing. I have my prayer people come up even right now.